stories, and they both involve my brother and a white t-shirt. So the first one is about 3 years ago, and I was staying with my parents, and my brother lived with them for like a couple weeks before I moved into my apartment. Oh, yes, ma'am. And let's see. And so I was like sequestering my belongings, trying to get ready to move out. And my brother decides to take a couple of them hostage in his room. So I'm like, Steve, I need my things back. He's like, I don't know, just like all this like, Steve, I need my things back. Steve, I need my things back. And so it escalates to the point where I'm stabbing his door with what I think it was a screwdriver. And I eventually get into the door and I throw this set of Allen wrenches at him, and it hits him right in his chest. And he comes at me. And then we go into the living room, we're fighting. And eventually, like, I get out the door and I can see him from the window. He's like tapping on the window and he's like pulling apart this sculpture I just made. I'm like outside, like freaking out. And eventually he comes outside too, and he's got this stain on his shirt and it's blood. And he's like, you stabbed me, you bitch. And I'm like, totally surprised, because I thought the Allen wrenches were closed. But I did. But so I'm like, so that blew over. I moved out, and and I came back like a week later. I was like obsessed with this blood stain. I was like, how could I do this? How could I stab my brother? It was like every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was the outline of it. So I went back to their house, and I rifled through his clothes to find the shirt, and the stain is still bright red. And I'm like, huh. Blood usually dries to a rusty brown. So the motherfucker took food dye and drew a blood stain on it. I don't know what that's about. But the second story is about 6 months ago. And I'm over their house again, which is a bad idea because 1, never go to New Jersey. 2, never go to my parents' house. So this time I'm trying to leave and he has something of mine or something of my sister's I'm supposed to be protecting. I'm like, Steve, I need this back. And he's like, whoa, what are you talking about? I'm using this, leave me alone. I'm like, Steve, I need it. And it escalates, I go to take it from him and he hits me. And I freak out because I haven't been hitting around a while. So I'm like, no, ever hit me again. I'm like punching him, but it doesn't make a difference because like this kid's the size of a house. He's like huge, like a football player. And so he has me in the living room and he throws me on the couch and I think I'm gonna die today over something stupid. But I get away and I get to go out the door, but I do my signature move where I throw something as I leave. And it misses him, of course. But then he throws a bottle at me and it hits me right in the head. So I get out the door, I'm like flipping out. I'm like outside, like, and I'm getting into my sister's car. And meanwhile, the neighbors are there, like, putting in their groceries. They're like, are you okay? And I'm, like, bleeding from the head. And I grab, like, the first thing I can find, which is my sister's t-shirt, like, her work shirt. And I'm, like, blotting my head. I'm like, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And I, like, get in her car and drive down the street and, like, park somewhere for a minute and calm down. In the meantime, I hear, like, 5 police sirens coming because the neighbors called the cops. And then all of a sudden, the cops are calling my cell phone. And, you know, and they're trying to get me to come in and give a statement. You know I'm not coming because I got a warrant in New Jersey. But, so I call my sister at work and I'm like, and she like has to get out of work early and she's telling her boss, she's like, I think my sister got hit in the head with a bottle, and her boss is like, who the f would hit her in the head with a bottle? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She's like, I think my brother did. So she drove me to her friend's house and I got over to Philly as fast as I could. First I went in drag so they wouldn't recognize me. But, oh, 1 minute. So, yeah. And then, I don't know. When my brother got out of jail, I told him I didn't call the police. But, anyway, so now all I have is these 2, oh, it's on the inside, these 2 shirts. And they're both blood-stained, but only one of them is real, and I don't really know what to do with that information.